Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to try to cover a couple things. First, we're going to talk briefly about the budget, and then Councilmember Bagshaw, who's here, will talk about budget. Then I'll talk briefly about the 976 injunction, but hand it to the city attorney so he can address that, and then we'll take Q&A, so everyone knows the run of show. I want to thank you for joining us today as I get assigned the budget, Seattle's 2020 budget. The investments we are making in 2020 ensure that we continue to move ahead on the issues we care about and that we continue to show all of our community that Seattle is thriving. Our budget reflects the present and future we want for the people of Seattle, especially for our young people. Working with Council, this budget invests in our shared priorities like expanding access for opportunities for our young people, more affordable housing throughout our city, addressing the crisis of homelessness, advancing public safety, adding more transit, and making sure that we continue to invest in the community organizations that best serve their communities. And of course, the lion's share of this budget is to deliver those basic city services that every employee of the city of Seattle delivers every day. And that is really why we go to work and what we do. And we saw last year, from the squeeze to the freeze, how important it is that our city workers show up and do that work, and we continue to do it. With this budget, we're making really long-term and durable investments in our community. We're growing the city's child care assistance program to serve hundreds of more households every year. Anyone who's had kids or knows people with kids knows how important child care is to the success of any family. It's important to the kid themselves and important to the parents and their extended family. We will also be expanding our Health One team and increasing our emergency responders' resources to help people in crisis. You'll be hearing probably in the coming weeks about some of the early data we're getting from Health One, and what we can say is it is as we expected. We need more of it, and we have some really smart ways we think we're going to expand it. We're also going to take advantage of a new state law that gives us tens of millions of dollars to build more affordable housing for working families without raising Seattle taxes. We got to keep the money that otherwise would have gone to Olympia to build more affordable housing. And we are continuing our commitment to public safety. We will make sure that our police are equipped with the resources they need, that we hire and train the resources and the police officers we need, and we invest in all those other things that we need to have true public safety, like programs for youth and diversion programs. We know what works. Now with this budget, I'm proud to say that we're able to scale it in a better way. I really want to thank the City Council for their partnership in building and passing this budget. The work we did on this budget was all last year. And one reason people saw so few changes overall in the budget is we worked really hard with Council to listen to what their priorities were for them and for their districts. I really want to say special thanks to Chair Sally Bagshaw. Her leadership, I think, was evident and in full display. The ability to move the council budget process through a period of time that had a lot of distractions with a lot of elections going on, a lot of hyper dialogue, and she, through her career, has dedicated herself to public service. She is not just a responsible steward of dollars, she cares. And this budget reflects that caring, that devotion to this community. We know that her term in office is coming to a close. We know her public service will never end, but I want to give her a particular thanks for all the work that she's doing. And with that, I look forward to signing this budget, but first I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Bagshaw so she can deliver a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Well, it's very nice of all of you to come the day before Thanksgiving. I am impressed that you are here, and thank you for all of the work that you, the media, have done to help us moving forward. This budget and my time to be able to work with you, Ms. Mayor Durkan, have been two of the most important things in the 10 years on this council, and I've been really grateful for that. What this budget time allowed me to do was really focus on my priorities. And I went into this wanting to focus on addressing the needs we have around homelessness. My goodness, it's been an emergency for so many years. The additional number of housing units that we need, the hygiene units that we have been pounding for years, and then lastly, the work that we've been doing on criminal justice reform. I'm really excited because we were able to bring all of this together, and truly we built on the mayor's budget. There was nothing really new in what we did, but we did prioritize the things that were most important. For example, the tiny homes effort that we've done to add at least 100 more. I'll tell you, when I first started as a council member, I had nobody on the council that was interested in doing this with me. Even my two best buddies at the time thought that this was a silly thing to do. But all along I've been saying it's so much better than a cold, wet tent. Let's get people off the street knowing that it is an interim till we can get people into permanent housing, but to provide a space, a warm community, to have case managers there. This is a really great opportunity, and I'm excited, frankly, because we've also got a lot more 24/7 shelter units in the pipeline. I don't know how many of you have been down to see what we've done in the West Wing, thanks to the city, to King County, to our downtown emergency services center partners. It's a very impressive place where people can come in. They can come in 24/7. They can come in the middle of the night if they have a late night job. But what it's done is provide stability. And DESC told me just a few weeks ago that they've only had 2 necessary 911 responses there. You know, and you compare that to some of our other emergency shelters, it is night and day. Also, the mayor mentioned Health One, and I want to say so much thanks to our firefighters that were willing to do this. We brought this up a year ago. It took time to get it together, frankly, to make sure that our union friends were willing to participate in this. And just this morning, I saw a need for this kind of a response, not just a 911 with the ladder trucks. We needed people there that had mental health experience, behavioral health experience, and being able to respond. So with the tiny homes, with more 27, and with the hygiene facilities, years ago I went to San Francisco and saw what they were able to accomplish in their neighborhoods with these mobile centers, but also the ones that they've got that are monitored. It made such a big difference. Downtown Seattle Association have asked us for this, so we now have put money into the budget to be able to have at least 5, if not more, mobile units where people can use the facilities. We can move them around. It will be clean. But what we know is that, and I want to say thanks to Real Change, we have to have places for people to go when they need to go. Otherwise, we end up having to clean up the doorways, which hasn't been anybody's favorite things to do. So now that we're going to have more affordable housing, better places for people to go 24/7, additional hygiene, and then working with our city attorney, with our King County prosecuting attorney on the criminal justice reform. This is huge. This brings together all of those things we heard about last year when the people were talking about Seattle not thriving. And we know that we can make the kind of improvements. And I'm so proud this year because not only have I worked with the mayor and her team, but with the Muni Court, with our King County Superior Court judges, with Pete Holmes' office, with Dan Satterberg's office. We're making a huge, huge step forward. And then also, I really want to thank, in District 7, this has been my district, well, for 20 years that I've lived here, but 10 years on the council. And there's some things that we are doing now I'm so happy that are going to be brought to fruition. I'm going to ask those of you who are going to be here after me next year, help this happen. The Belltown Portal Park, Market to Mohai, that of course is John Pearson's thing. What we've been doing on Yesler Crescent and Dow 2nd Avenue, it's amazing how much we've been able to do in just a couple of years. And is Tess Colby hiding in here somewhere? But
she's getting it done.
okay, Tess has done such great work on regional governance, and I just want to say special thanks to her. You did a wonderful thing by appointing her. I've just loved working with her. And we're going to see this now. King County, our city, and the other 38 cities in the county region coming together to really bring the efforts that we have, the resources we have to help end homelessness on a countywide basis. I'm really proud of that. And I seriously am going to miss you. I am going to miss you, Ms. Mayor. But I've been told that my phone rings in Boston, so I won't be very far away.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, I'll sign, and then we'll talk about 976. You got to come here while I sign, because otherwise it's not official.
Okay. Do I get one of those pens?
Before I sign,
Oh, for heaven's sake.
we want to thank you
you.
for everything.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very nice. I will. Thank you.
We have a budget.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Good job. We gotta pay for more lawyers.
Didn't we pay for 9 more?
So I know some people here, we had a development this morning, and on 976, the judge granted the city's injunction. I just want to say this is great news for the city of Seattle, and I think for the region. We have seen, everyone knows that transit use in Seattle is going up, use of single occupancy vehicles is going down, and we need more transit, not less transit. So today was really an important ruling for the city of Seattle and for our region, because so many people rely on good transit services. You know, we're also very pleased that we'll be able to continue our Orca Opportunity Program. I don't know if, in case you missed it yesterday, Tacoma has adopted the same program, so they will be providing Orca cards for their public school students. We know that that not only becomes a passport to the region now, but it shows those students from early on how great transit is and gets them used to riding transit and becomes their first mode. So I want to thank Pete Holmes for the great work that his team did between the election and going to court in a very brief period of time to be able to go into court, convince the court that I-976 was unconstitutional and illegal, and to be able to get the injunction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Durkan. I do have the ruling right here with me. Before I speak about 976, however, I did want to also offer kudos to my friend Sally Bagshaw. Sally and I took the oath of office at the same time back in early 2010, and we have served together. I've never seen a harder working council member, and I think that she will tell you I have always been one that, you know, I return her calls if I can't pick it up at the instantaneously. She is going to be sorely missed. I will say I'm pretty proud of my assistant prosecuting attorney, Andrew Lewis, who is now council member elect. But you'll be missed, Sally, and Godspeed to Boston, even if you want to go to Harvard. You know, they lost the game last Saturday, by the way. Just want to pass that along, but anyway.
And we're never the Patriots.
Never the Patriots. So, you know, when I last stood here with Mayor Durkan to talk to you about our decisions to file the lawsuit and seek to overturn I-976, I told you then, and I think that we see now that Judge Marshall Ferguson agreed, that it was a lie to the voters. It was a lie to suggest that you could vote for 976 and believe that previously approved, voter-approved car tabs would still survive the passage of I-976. They saw through that and recognized that the voters were misled. I think the judge also recognized as a practical matter that this thriving city, which so earnestly needs mass transit and greater investments in our infrastructure, could not simply go back and get unpaid car tab fees after the fact, that it would be easier, should this be upheld later down the road, to refund car tabs rather than to not collect them right now and apply them to the uses that they're intended to go to. So I am grateful to Judge Ferguson. I was there in the courtroom for the many hours of hearing. I can say that Judge Ferguson came prepared. He had read every word. I would not have bet my own money on the outcome after that hearing, because this was a judge that was questioning hard all aspects of the legal arguments that were brought forward. I'm really proud of the work that our team did. In particular, Carolyn Boyes, our assistant city attorney, who was assigned to this project and has worked around the clock on it ever since Election Day. And it's one of those gratifying examples of the work that we do all day, every day, and night to further the interests of this city. This ruling is an important one, and it's not over. We recognize that. And our team will continue to work toward an ultimate resolution about the constitutionality, we believe, the unconstitutionality of I-976, ultimately probably to be decided by the Washington Supreme Court. So much work ahead. Our team is already in touch with the lawyers about meeting Judge Ferguson's December 5 scheduling deadline request. And so I ask you all to stay tuned there, because that will obviously lay out when the next hearings will be. We're already looking at our internally about what our next steps will be, our next theories, and then we'll also be looking forward. There will probably be some interveners seeking to join in the litigation. With that, are there any questions?
Mark?
With Tim Eyman saying that, kind of letting people know maybe you shouldn't have to pay your tabs starting at December 5th. What do you have to say to the people who will be listening here, hearing that message, and what does that injunction mean for that?
This injunction is a lawful ruling that preserves the status quo. I would urge people to obey the law. If you're not going to drive your car, you, of course, are free not to renew your registration and keep it parked. But if you're on the public streets and your tabs have expired, it is at best a monumental inconvenience to be pulled over and cited for that. So as a practical matter, I think Mr. Eyman is giving pretty bad advice to his followers.
And I'd add one thing to that too, is, there's, at its heart, this ruling vindicates voters. Because remember, what Seattle was most focused on was vindicating the voters who voted to tax themselves for the transit they need. And this initiative pretended that that would stay in place and that local communities could decide their own fate. What the judge's ruling shows very clearly is that was just a lie. And so we will stand up for what the voters in Seattle have said time and time again, which is we want better transit and we're willing to fund it.
I think I'd add, as of last night, even though the final vote tallies haven't been certified statewide, we know that the voting here in Seattle was 73% against I-976. And that's on top of the 2014 vote approving $60 car tabs.
What about the voters outside Seattle, though? I mean, there's a lot of people that are tweeting, Facebooking, saying, screw Seattle. You've ruined this for me in my rural county across the mountains. What do you say to the people on the other side?
So a couple of things on that. Number one is the law that was in place before gave every community local control. We didn't want Olympia telling us what to do. Spokane didn't want Olympia telling us what to do. They gave the voters in each community the right to control their own destiny. That's what the local transportation benefits did. And that each community took advantage of that in different ways. And some of the people who voted for this, their car tabs are low. And so I think that another very misleading thing about this was to pretend that somehow this was Seattle against the world. I think Spokane and Walla Walla and you name any small town or big city in the state, they should have the right in many ways to decide their local control. We have other things like Sound Transit, which have districts. So Seattle does not want to dictate to any of those communities how they tax themselves. But when Seattle voters themselves decide to tax themselves to improve their community, we think that that vote should be upheld and vindicated.
You know, Chris, if I could also echo this, I hope that the media can help turn this moment into one to educate the voters at large about the real underlying issues is the completely regressive tax structure that we labor under, trying to lead a city, trying to provide for modern challenges. When we have the most regressive tax structure in the entire country, it's little doubt that that when we have to find resources where we can, that they're not ideally proportioned across the gamut of people who are better positioned to pay for those taxes, to provide the infrastructure that we need. That's the real debate that should be going on here. And I recognize that it's probably a hardship for some people to pay these car tabs. We can't ignore that. But we also desperately need transit. We need to provide for the needs of a growing city. We need to keep moving forward, ideally with a much more progressive tax revenue structure. That's what is really needed here. That's the real problem, the real ultimate challenge for all of us to confront. We need to really turn toward that and ask our legislators in Olympia to help us with that.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving. Stay safe.